Hey, Verz, earlier today, Ravi was asking me if we can learn anything from an open practice for Nebraska. Now, you've been to the close practices, but when it comes to those open availabilities where the crowds can all come in and watch and pay to see the Huskers in their uniforms and such, is there anything you can actually gather from those, or is it behind the closed doors that you can actually tell what's going on with the team?
Oof, I would have to go to one of the open ones. You can tell when like a practice or an event is like real lively and it's up tempo and it's up paced. And Nebraska fans are smart. They can watch. They know what to look for. It's just I don't have quite a grasp yet on the staff if they're willing to put it out there. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how it's going. Being that the only ones that I've ever been to are the kind of more like non-open to the public ones where I can see them get after it. I don't have a good basis for that. I would, if I was going to assume, I guess it's pretty vanilla. I would guess it's pretty basic, and it's just more of a, hey, fans, here's your favorite player doing some stuff. Probably a lot of go balls, probably a lot of deep routes, that kind of stuff, just to keep everybody excited and in tune with everything.
And that's a good point, though, because do you feel like the coaches coach differently when they have the fans surrounding them and anyone's iPhone or any video camera from a media member can catch them if they were to blow up the spot of someone who did something wrong that they probably would get after them in a regular practice for?
No, if you're secure in what you do, I think that staff is very matured. I think they understand what's going on and how it should happen. I don't think our guys would. I know some, if you're younger into it, and you care what people think or how you act, or, you don't want people to think you're a meanie, then yeah, you're probably going to alter that. But I think where Nebraska's at, they don't. They're old, crusty veteran coaches. I don't think they give a shit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Verz, if you're going to a practice open or otherwise, like I assume your attention's going to drift towards the line play. But if you were trying to give somebody advice that maybe isn't as familiar with the structure of football practices, what advice would you give them of like, hey, here's where you're gonna get the most out of watching? Because it can be a lot. There's a lot going on at the same time. And I think if you're not familiar with how football practices are structured, it can kind of be overwhelming. You don't actually process anything because you're just kind of overwhelmed by everything that's happening.
Yeah, the main things that you want to focus on is like competition. So when you get into a drill, even if it's just your individual group drills, are they competitive? Like, do guys want to get after it? Do they want to get better? Are they pushing each other? Then when it gets into more of a team aspect of it, is no play is ever run perfectly. Like, so when the play gets run, if it looks good, great. There's still some things you can fine tune. Does the coach then move in and fine tune those things if the play kind of falls apart? What's the correction look like, and how many people are correcting it? And is the player receptive to that? Do they stop and look the coach in the face and say, yeah, I get it? Is there communication back and forth? Like, that would be the things that I would watch in that, is how lively is the situation or scenario? Because if you're just going to practice to survive practice, then you're not going to get better. If you're going to practice where it's the most competitive thing of your day, then you'll get better at it.
All things being equal, if you're seeing correction and stuff within a practice, would you rather that come from other players or from the coaches?
Depends who the other player is. I don't think Nebraska, probably the line, the O-line is probably one of the only positions where you have guys that have been there for a long time. The secondary would be another one where you have older guys. That older guys making the correction, yeah, that's good. But when you got so many news that are in it at other positions, it's like, hey man, I've been here as long as you've been here. Like, have you studied that much? Like, you've got this mastered and you kind of understand the dynamic of if the position group understands who runs the room. So if you have an older leader in that position group and they run the room, and then they again stop, look the older player in the face, the older player's making the correction, they're helping them out, then yeah, you can have that. But I would say right now, Nebraska coaches do a great job. The defensive line coach was really impressive the day I watched a closed practice. I really, really liked how he instructed and he informed the guys, and they were really receptive to it. So that was cool to watch.
Did you have any frame of reference? Did you ever get to see Knighton coach D-line versus Braden now? What were kind of the differences that you noticed?
They're very simple. Knighton was a little more passive aggressive,
Okay.
which I always appreciate.
A little snarky.
Yeah, the new guy is more direct. He's like, this is how you do it. This is what we're going to work on your next rep. And this is how it goes. Knighton, though, had the advantage of having an older room. You know, he had Nash and he had Ty. He had a bunch of guys that had been there for 4, 5, 6 years. So they understood that they screwed it up. Probably shouldn't happen again. So he could be that way with them.
Yeah. Verz, Henry Lutovsky going to be speaking at Big Ten Media Days next week. Is he the one you would have picked to hear out of that room, or did you have a different pick?
No, I think that's an excellent choice. He's come a long way. You know, there were some things that the general public didn't know about when he was a freshman that he had done at dear old Nebraska U that were probably not on the good side of life. Not anything illegal, just the way he was acting toward some other teammates. So to see him mature into what they obviously view as a leader, to have him be a guy that's going to go speak at the Big Ten Media, that's a huge progression for him. And I think Nebraska will go as far as his leadership will take them. That's not just the line; that's the whole team. So he's going to be a linchpin guy. He's a good player. Got his head on. He's not afraid to give correction out of guys. So that's good to see, and excited to hopefully he's practicing. Got some canned statements that you can just give, and you never want to be the lineman, get up there and don't sound eloquent. You want to make sure that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that kind of answers my next question. I was going to ask you if there was anything you wanted to hear from him, but we had talked earlier this week with DB about what Dylan Raiola will have to face against maybe that national media. If you're the offensive lineman going out there, you're Henry Lutovsky, and some national media member, someone that's not Mitch Sherman, Sam McEwen, Brian Christopherson, going to ask you a question, what do you just prepare for basically anything that can come up, or do you kind of have an expectation of what someone might ask you?
No, so you're going to kind of see what some of the inner workings of Nebraska are if you pay attention to it. So when we went through all of our camps, you had media training. And you went through, and if you look at how everybody answered questions back in those days, they were very similar answers. Now, the funny part of it was they had this is how you do it right, and this is how you do it wrong video. And so they would be like, here's the question, and it would have, whomever answer, Turner Gill. They'd have Turner Gill answering the question. And this is just, so they used all the eras. So TG would be like, well, we're really excited to play Ohio State, defending national champions. So they're a great program. We're trying to build to what they are, like he just had every canned answer a la Bull Durham and Nuke LaLoosh. This is what you need to say. Then it would cut to a clip of Johnny Mitchell, and it said, these are the keys to our house, and nobody's coming in our house. And then it flashed the score after the game. And I was like, okay. And everybody laughed, and but it was, you don't have to say anything. People talk too much and don't back it up these days anyway now. So just keep it basic, keep it simple. You're happy to be there. You're looking forward to the opportunity to compete in the Big Ten. God willing, you do great and you make it to the championship game, and then let the cards fall where they may. But the less you say, the better. And that you don't need to be a media clip guy. You just need to get your stuff out there and take your free trip to Indy.
Verz, if you're looking at the offensive line, would you have chosen Lutovsky as an X factor? I'm talking about on the field. Or is there somebody else that you're like, hey, they really need this guy to be good in order for that line to be what I want it to be?
I don't really I don't boil it down to one.
Okay.
As long as I've got a leader in there. Now I've been an Evans fan from day one. He's had the best feet on the offensive line for a long time. So his move to center is very simple. He's a smart kid. He knows what's going on. He knows all the offensive calls and what they got to get done. But it was who is going to, and he's just not a loud guy. He's not a boisterous guy. It's just not him.
Mm-hmm.
So to have Lutovsky come in there, and I think it's a huge tip of the cap to the young man that the coaches want in there, because you don't always see offensive linemen that get that opportunity. So he's proven to them, hey, I'm your guy. Hitch your wagon to me, and we'll go do this. And will look good.
In a general statement, when it comes to the offensive line, you'd probably want the center to kind of be the leader of that unit, or does it matter? Is it more just who everyone kind of turns to or just accepts that role? How does that usually go about? Or if you're a coach, who would you rather have take that leadership role?
Any one of the five are good. You know, position. If it's your center, it kind of just fits a narrative for media to run with.
Gotcha.
Like, the guy in the middle leads it all. He's running it. No offense to you. They all run with it when the center is the loudmouth. But as long as it's one of those five, it's when none of those five qualifies when you're like, ooh, we're in some deep shit here. Like one of these five guys, don't care who it is, has to be it. And if you've got 1 and 1A, even better, which I think Evans, not a good cop, bad cop, but more like, Batman and Robin, where it's just like, hey, we're both doing this. We're both going to make sure that and you got 2 new guys that are going to factor in huge. So you got to kind of help them along the way. They're older, but as long as you guys are cohesive and there's one voice coming out of that room, things will be good.
That's our guy, Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Piezons. Verz, we appreciate the time as always. Look how nice everybody was to everybody this week. That was great.
Yeah, he's going to get it next week.
I will be ready. I can't wait for that. It's going to be Clip City. Content machine, Matt Vrzal.
Verz, we appreciate it. Have a good weekend, bud.
All right, have a good day, fuckers.